Hey everybody, this is Review Revolution, back at you again with the next in the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Onslaught series. And today, we're moving on to Lady Deathstrike. Lady Deathstrike, I don't know if you can read it back there, the Wolverine villain. So the representation for Wolverine's arch nemesis, or an arch nemesis for Wolverine, if you will. Taking a look, you can see she actually is going to be the one to come with the upper torso and head of Onslaught, which when you look inside, you can kind of make something big out there. It's going to be fun to get that one open. Superposable 31 points of articulation diorama, which for Lady Deathstrike, I'm guessing is probably going to be like a dojo or a Japanese temple, perhaps. You know, something along those lines. 32-page comic book, 32-page Wolverine comic book, it looks like. The other figures, now, being that this is Wave 13, this is the Villains Wave. So, starting with Green Goblin, Loki, Abomination, each with variants, Pyro, Lady Deathstrike, and Blackheart. When done, we'll be able to put together Onslaught, who is an interesting character. Got a lot to answer for, actually. Here in the back, of course, we've got the portrait of Lady Deathstrike, and I'm just not a fan of the portraits they put on the back of these cards. I just don't like the way they look. I'm not a big fan of this version of Lady Deathstrike anyway. So, you know, just this particular costume of her, I was never a big fan of. So that's just further points that are just knocking it down for me. But there are her stats. Certainly pause as needed. For her bio, she has suffered a life filled with betrayal and heartbreak. While some seek traditional remedies for these common troubles, Lady Deathstrike wants much more: retribution, bedlam, and revenge. Lord Darkwing, Lady Deathstrike's father, wanting to create an army of superhuman soldiers for Japan, invented a process for binding virtually indestructible steel alloy, adamantium, to human bone. But his plans were stolen. Yuriko grew increasingly hateful towards her father after her brothers were killed in Lord Darkwing's service. Seizing upon the first available opportunity, Lady Deathstrike lashed out and killed Lord Darkwing. Later, Lady Deathstrike adopted her father's radical views. First vengeful task, find the ones responsible for stealing her father's adamantium plans. Lady Deathstrike maintains her focus and mission: murder, mayhem, and as a means toward all ends. Okay, all right. Again, I'll practice these more. I'll get there. But yeah, kind of an agent of chaos. One thing that it doesn't mention, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. I'll promise to remember. Talk a little bit more about it when we get to Spiral. But she actually went to the Mojo world where, with Spiral's help, that's where she got her talons and cybernetic implants. So even though the bio makes it sound as though she was kind of transformed by her father, in fact, this is something that she did have done by Spiral. So just a little tidbit there. For now, we'll take a moment, pop Lady Deathstrike out of the pack, and have some fun. Be right back. Alright everybody, we're back, and we've got Deathstrike out of the pack, and for the most part, she's not that bad. She's actually not that bad. I'm not a big fan of the character, so I think it's safe to say that depending on how much you do like the character, it's certainly going to influence how much you're going to like the figure. That's the highest praise I can give, is that this is actually a very well-conceived figure for the character. Just a couple of minor things that we'll get to. First off, looking at the design on her, the sculpting is actually really good. You know, her cybernetic arms are done very well. The sleeves, the bands off her cap. I mean, it all looks really good. I have to say, I love how they sculpted the vest and then have the texture in the legs. It's all done very, very well. Save the pelvis piece here. The vest and the legs have a nice dry brush, like this black wash over them actually, and it gives it some nice relief and some nice texture. That's really nice. I really do like that. If the white had a little bit of a gray in it, I think that would have helped out a bit too, but as it is, it's just kind of flat white, which isn't bad. On the face, now the face is one of the things that I do have a problem with. First off, the paint on it, there's nothing on the face to give it any relief or any kind of depth on the face, so it looks very flat and very bland. That is a little bit of a disappointment. Her expression is, considering she's supposed to be basically a wild character, she looks fairly placid. Like she looks almost bored. So, on the one hand, it's not a bad sculpt. It's just not all that good either. It's actually a rather bored look. You can probably see that on there, her eyes don't look like they're finished either. I mean, they put some eyeliner around the eye, but they didn't go back to paint the inside any color at all. It's the same as the rest of the face. So either she doesn't have any eyes to speak of, at least paint some white in there, guys. Just don't give us the same flesh tone. I mean, it looked so half-assed. Like it wasn't even done. They didn't even bother to finish it. Probably shouldn't have said it that way, but it just bugs me. As with Spider-Woman and X-23, and now with Lady Deathstrike, the neck is posed leaning forward. So, again, whoever sculpted these female figures, for whatever reason, don't think women's head go above their shoulders. Women don't have heads over their shoulders. Women keep their heads poked forward. That's the only explanation I can give as to why these Marvel Legend female characters look this way. I'm sure it's supposed to give it sort of more of a dynamic kind of coming at you kind of thing, but it looks terrible. It looks terrible, and you can't really pose it, anything too well. I mean, the head will turn slightly left and right, but beyond that, it starts to go just upside down. And that's because it's not on the shoulders, it's basically on the chest. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But the head does go all the way around. It is on a hinge, so it does go up and down here. The arms come out, twist at the bicep. Very nice double joint at the elbow, I have to say. The sculpting on the arms are some of the better ones I've seen because the bicep does go into the sleeve and it gets hidden very well. The forearm here, again, very nicely done. The hand is on a hinge, and the hand is made of a very soft plastic. That's one thing, that's one drawback I have about several of the characters so far, is that this is very, very soft plastic on the hand. Looking at the hand itself, the four fingers are articulated together, and there's one place where the black paint has kind of flaked off a bit. So not terrible. You're not going to notice it too badly unless you actually kind of look at it. A little disappointing. When you look at the torso, it looks as though she has a crunch, but not really. There's not really a crunch there. It will twist. Let's see if I can get the arm back down. There we go. Leg comes out. Out again. Another very nice double joint here at the leg. As I was saying, the sculpting on the legs with the texture, it does hide the twist at the calf. There's a hinge at the foot and a pivot, which is very tight, so I'm not going to force it. So again, a nicely conceived version of Lady Deathstrike, certainly. For anyone who might be a Wolverine or a X-Men fan, you'll probably have a strong appreciation for how well they actually did on her. She's actually pretty nice. I'm not a big fan of the character, at least not this version of her, so, as cool as the figure actually is, she's not one of my favorites. But she looks really good. She looks really good. She does come with the upper torso and head of Onslaught, who is going to be one of my favorites. He just looks totally impressive. The diorama, I was wrong. It's not kind of a Japanese temple or anything like that. It is in fact Spiral's body shop, and you actually have Spiral there, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if there's ever been a diorama that featured another character before, but it is the body shop. And this issue of Wolverine was at a time where he had lost his adamantium. So it was his square off against Deathstrike after he lost his adamantium. It has the female Vindicator from Alpha Flight in it, who is a Marvel Legend character I would love to see them do. So not a bad issue, not a bad read, not a bad figure as far as how well she's been depicted. Let you decide whether or not it's one you'd want to have, but at least for now, I have to give it high marks. Despite the face and the neck, I have to give it high marks because they really did a good job recreating her on a figure. So for now, this has been the Review Revolution saying rate, comment, subscribe, join the revolution, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.